For people who are not tolerating methylated Bs but clearly need them, or as you're trying to help support the body, another time you might want to reach for that would be if you are seeing the methylation and toxic exposure marker on the Great Plains organic acid test elevated, and you're not seeing elevations on uracil, thiamine, methylmalonic acid. Then again, it's that little bit of a nudge to help the body support that methylation cascade. So I do think it's a nice idea to use that in conjunction with the actual vitamins, especially when there's receptor issues, when it's not just a matter of pushing and pushing and pushing the nutrient, but how it's actually being utilized in the body.
So you don't stop the folate or B12 or anything that is in here. You use this as an assist.
As an assist, I would say it depends on what they're getting from food. So if you think on paper they are getting enough from food and they're not utilizing it, sometimes the methylation assist liquescence is sufficient to be corrective. And you've got a lot of different measurements that you can utilize to confirm whether or not it's enough. The MCV and the MCH are clearly going to be two that if you see them coming back in line, you know you're doing the right thing. But again, we could use that organic acid test as another means to cross-reference. There can be times where just that liquescence is sufficient, but it depends what they're doing food-wise and what their absorption in the gut is looking like. So if there's just not enough coming in from the diet, you would still want to think about the supplemental source.
Okay.
Emily, if somebody has blood work is showing they're extremely B12 deficient, the mainstream blood work, and the doctor's worried about pernicious anemia and wants them on injectable, when they take any amount orally or by injection of methyl or hydroxycobalamin, they tank for like a week or 10 days.
Tank in what way?
They feel terrible, fuzzy brain, aches all over. They can be nauseous. And on the O test, the B12 marker is almost dead center.
Okay. So with the blood work, we want to be careful about what we're looking at. Methylmalonic acid, whether in urine or blood, is going to be that intracellular B12. Serum B12 tells us what's in the serum. It's not an intracellular marker, and so it can be elevated when we are not using that B12 efficiently, where it's just stuck and stagnating. But there can be other times where it's things like an increased need for folate or an increased need for copper, and not necessarily B12. So especially if the methylmalonic is in line. Now you can have someone who's over supplementing as well and has a good methylmalonic acid and an elevated serum B12 because they're just putting too much into the system as well. One thing we should consider with these specific tanking symptoms, methylation is a potent detoxifier, and so it could be opening up some pathways that have otherwise been closed off. But we're also going to influence things like SAMe when we put a lot of methylated B12 in, and that can have a pretty dramatic impact on neurotransmitter balance. So I think it's probably too rapid. I think this is a case where I'd give binders along with it. Terry mentioned potentially using some cofactors as well. Lithium, we also want to consider B2 and B3 in the FAD and NAD. We've got to get used as cofactors for that methylation cascade as well. So the hair test mineral analysis is a really nice way of seeing whether there's lithium insufficiency.